everyone, and welcome back to Of Feathers and Fiction. I'm glad to be back. This may be my last video before my baby arrives, which is like mind-boggling for me. We'll see how things go, but I hope to continue making videos like this. It just might be a little bit longer of a break while I adjust to being a mom. So yeah, I'll keep you guys posted on that. But today we have Sybil here and Figgy. They're a lot bigger than they were when I introduced you to them at my last video. So they're almost full grown and they're absolute sweethearts. Yes, they are. Anyway, these guys are new to this, so I'm not sure how well they'll cooperate, but they seem pretty chill so far, so we'll see. I'll give them some mealworms. They haven't quite learned what the mealworms are yet, so they're not crazy about them, but I will give them some to see if they start eating them. But they're gonna hang out with us today while we talk about things I hate in Romantasy. Are you ready? You ready for your debut? Okay, I gotta get my feet up. Woo! Okay, now, I love fantasy and romance. Those are like my two favorite genres. When I found out people were like smushing them together into this genre called Romantasy, I was like thrilled because I'm like the best of both worlds are being put together. I took like a 10-year hiatus from reading. I hear a lot of people say they go through like the same phases, which is interesting. So I didn't read anything for 10 years and then I started wanting to read again. So admittedly, I am probably newer getting it back into the reading space, the book space. However, I've noticed a lot of repeating themes in these books that have been marketed as romantasy that I find quite annoying and just not pleasing to read, at least for my taste. In this video, I'm just going to share my opinions on things that I personally don't like in romantasy. If you like them, more power to you. If you want to just get to know my reading style and my tastes and my preferences, this is a great video for you to gather that intel on me, I guess. You know, again, if these are like things that you like, I'm not gonna, who am I to say, you know, like what you like, but these are things that make me roll my eyes, make me cringe, and make me want to throw the book across the room. I like more of a romance plot combo. A romance subplot is also very good, but I like kind of equal parts. That's what I would prefer. And oftentimes what I'm reading is more focused on the romance, less on an actual plot or the world that we're in. A lot of these books have little to no real world building. It's very mediocre. It's very shallow. The characters all kind of feel the same after a while. I have to wonder if there isn't a bit of commentary on like a patriarchal kink that's really common and popular for these books, because it seems like a lot of them have men that are obsessive, brooding, controlling, and this is seen as like super attractive. It never sits right with me because I like men that are respectful of women.
How about that?
I don't get the whole, like I said, obsessive, controlling man trope in a lot of these books. I don't quite get that phenomenon. Again, if that's something that you like to read in your fiction, but you don't like in real life, I understand there's like separation there for some people. For me, I've said it before, I just can't really separate the two. Like, I'm not going to like an MMC if he's a controlling, brooding piece of trash. Like, I don't care how hot he is. Don't care. Also, I apologize if you can hear in the background, my DJ Roomba is vacuuming right now. So I have it closed out of my office, so it's probably gonna clunk against my door repeatedly till it figures out that the door is closed. But also, another thing that I see a lot in these books is like a dehumanization of women and a removal of like women's basic autonomy. It just makes me uncomfortable. Sometimes I find myself wondering if I'm being a little too sensitive, because a lot of, like I said, a lot of women say they would never accept this inappropriate, obsessive, controlling behavior from men in real life, but they like it in their fiction, their fantasy books, but because they argue it's like a form of escape and they can separate the two. But for me, like a form of escape for me would be, I don't want misogynistic pieces of trash portrayed as like the good guys in my books, because I deal with that enough like in society. Why would I want to read about it in a fantasy book too and be like, oh my gosh, he's so hot? I don't know. It's just kind of weird. I don't quite understand it, and I'm just navigating these waters and trying to figure out like my tastes and why some of these things make me uncomfortable. I've got a specific list of some of the things I see in these books that I don't like, and I just want to go over them and have a little fun, you know? So let's get started. Number one, we're going to talk about the perfect physique, okay? Over-describing physical appearance is probably one of the things that makes me cringe the hardest when I open up a new Romantasy book. So we're talking about some common features in these dudes, right? So they have to be like 6'3" and above. Shredded physique, eyebrow scars, back scars, which then includes a super tragic backstory, massive roosters, if you know what I'm saying. Like everybody's packing some like pipe down there, right? Dark or black hair, 6-packs or 8-packs, which by the way, 6-packs and 8-packs are usually a sign of like major dehydration and like no body fat whatsoever, which isn't the healthiest thing for you to be doing. I have a disillusionment with the 6'3" and above thing, okay? When I was in high school, I dated a guy that was 6'3" or 4. So like, how tall am I? I'm 5'3", so he was 6'3". So we had a foot difference between us. And I just have to say, when I had to hug him, I'd be like hugging his like stomach. And he would find it funny because he could like smother me, make our hugs like kind of uncomfortable because he just like smother my face. So I understand the appeal because it's like, oh, he's so tall and he can like protect me. I kind of get it, but also like, it's not like as sexy as what everybody wants you to think. My husband is, I think he's 5'6", 5'7", and he's like perfect. I can like nuzzle my head into his neck and he doesn't suffocate me. Let's play around with our height sizes here, you know, like let's have some shorter guys, taller guys, like let's have some variety. That's probably gonna be one of my biggest things that I talk about and why romantasy is annoying. I understand it's formulaic. You do these things, you get people to buy your book. I get that, but let's have some fun and creativity and throw in some like variety and differences because at this point, everything reads the same. Another super common thing I see is the over describing of somebody's physical appearance right out of the starting gate. I don't need to know that somebody's like the hottest person in the room. You don't have to like explicitly tell me that. I can probably figure it out if you just write better. Like don't make it so obvious that he's like super, super hot on like page 5. When you describe someone's appearance, use it with purpose and at appropriate times. Leave out verbiage that like specifically says like, he was hot. I'm looking at you, fourth wing. When you describe a character, I think it shows that you're a better writer when you can weave it so smoothly into a character's personality that it doesn't feel like you're getting a description anymore. If I can really tell like you're going into your monologue about how attractive somebody is, I just don't think that you write that well. So I'd love to see better writing. So how would I correct this? Okay, give them personality, not just looks, personality. That is what makes someone altogether attractive. Some of the most ugly people I have ever met are the most physically attractive people I have ever met. And then likewise, some of the like least attractive people I've ever met, but have great personalities, end up having this kind of aura to them that make them more attractive. Just because you're physically hot does not make you attractive. And I would love to see authors lean more into giving their characters like true personality traits that make them attractive, not just their physical appearance. One of my favorite examples of like just how not to do this would be in Fourth Wing, 18 pages in when we first meet Xaden. Let's consult the text a little bit here. What does it say about Xaden's appearance? He's tall, with wind-blown black hair and dark brows. The line of his jaw is strong and covered by warm, tawny skin and dark stubble. And when he folds his arms across his torso, the muscles in his chest and arms ripple, moving in a way that makes me swallow. And his eyes are the shade of gold-flecked onyx. The contrast is startling, jaw-dropping even. Everything about him is. His features are so harsh that they look carved, and yet they're astonishingly perfect, like an artist worked a lifetime sculpting him, and at least a year of that was spent on his mouth. He's the most exquisite man I've ever seen. Is he now? Then we go on to say, even the diagonal scar that bisects his left eyebrow marks the top corner of his cheek only makes him hotter. Flaming hot, scorching hot, gets you into trouble and you like it level of hot. Oh boy, when I read that line, I was like, oh God, what am I in for? ACOTAR does this too. I only read the first 3 ACOTAR books because, actually no, I didn't even finish the 3rd book. I got 200 pages in. I was like, what the hell is this? It's so boring, I'm done. And people are like, no, you have to keep pressing forward, it'll get better. And I'm like, I am on book 3, 200 pages into book 3, and I am still bored out of my mind. If I have to wait until book 3 for things to start picking up in a series, I'm not finishing it. Also, I just think ACOTAR is just, it's a perfect example of a romantasy book that just, I don't know why it's so famous. There's so many better books out there to read. Anyway, let's consult some more text really quick. In the Games Gods Play, this book, again, how many pages are we in? Oh, we're 5 pages into this book. And this was the description we were given for Boone Runner, who is the main character's like crush, but doesn't end up becoming her love interest, but she has a crush on him in the beginning of the book. Well over 6 feet of muscle, brute strength, and a with me and find out heir to thanks to, again, the muscles and the recent addition of a scruffy brown beard a shade darker than his hair. Then there's a way he dresses like a biker, lots of jeans and leather. The vibes he gives off aren't a lie either. He can handle himself. To look at him, you'd think he'd be a total 24/7. Many of the master thieves like Chance are. It's a defense mechanism, survival tactic, but not Boone. That was 5 pages into this book. Oh no! Not another one. I don't quite understand the appeal for descriptions and things like that, but I'm like, let's move away from that. Number 2, shadow magic. It's so overdone. Can we do something different? Like literally anything else? Or how about no magic? How about we have some MMCs who are like just plain Jane? You know, like let's not do the shadow magic. Listen, I get why shadow magic is appealing because it implies dark and mysterious but again, this isn't like the only attractive feature that you can give a guy. Like, let's get more creative. I feel like these authors try to push that men being closed off and broody is super hot, but honestly, like grow up and get over yourself. Like, let's make these men actual men and not immature boys. Like, I'm not into 15-year-old behavior, you know?
How about that?
I don't really understand why so many of these books are so fixated on just childish behavior from men. Broody gets annoying. Being quiet and closely surveying his surroundings is a lot more interesting and mysterious. So like being broody kind of to me indicates more of like I just have my arms crossed and I glare at everybody in the room. But like showing that a man is more just quiet and observant, I think works better and still gives like a broody aspect to it, but not as like obnoxious or toxic, you know what I mean? How would I correct these things? I would just literally give, like I said, give these men different powers or no powers at all. Maybe they're better at organization and less efficient with a sword. Maybe they can sweet talk their way out of dicey situations. To consult the great text, again, I get why shadow magic is fun. In Fourth Wing, once again, it says, Xaden lifts a hand a few inches above the table and shadows pour from underneath our seats, filling the room and turning it dark as midnight in a blink. My heart jumps as my sight goes black. Relax, it's just me. A ghost of a touch skims at my cheek. So I liked that little tidbit detail because it was like kind of fun, kind of like a secret between Violet and Xaden with like the shadows, like he can blind everybody else and then do something to her that only she knows about, or like I like the fact that like he can use his shadows to actually physically reach out and touch her. So like listen, I get it. I get why it's appealing. I just think it's overdone. I'd like to see some other fun ways of using magic. Number 3, smirking, flirting, acting seductive. Some of these men are just way too confident. So it goes back to just like this cocky, misogynistic way that these guys behave, I think is just overdone and immature, and I don't really enjoy it. Oftentimes when we like meet people who know they're physically attractive and then act as such, end up being the most like annoying people to deal with. You could do a little bit of like a trope swap where like the woman knows she's beautiful and she doesn't feel like she has to overcompensate, and maybe the man feels more insecure in his appearance and she's the one reminding him of that he is handsome. I don't know, something just to, you know, switch it over and have a different perspective. Those types of things would be fun to see. We see a lot of time like the trope of the door frame lean where the guy's leaning in the doorway, and oftentimes I'm like, there's really no reason to lean in a doorway. Like, so why do we see it so much in these books? I have an example of a time it was used in a non-romantasy book that I actually really enjoyed. One of my favorite books of all time, The Sweet Blue Distance, is a historical fiction romance. Our main character, Carrie, she's on a boat. She's separated from her brother and their friend Eli. Eli ends up becoming her husband at the end of the book, but they all get separated due to some things that happen in the story. They make it back to the boat, and Carrie is so relieved because she thought both of them could have been injured or at least potentially dead. So she was very paranoid and worried about both of them. And there's a scene where they both make it back. Her brother comes over to her to give her a hug, and Eli kind of lingers back and he watches Carrie and her brother reunite, and everyone's excited. And Eli watches from the doorway and he leans into the doorway and he makes eye contact with her and he just gives her a wink. I was like, well done. The door frame lean was well done. It was fun, and it made me giggle. It made me giggle because it was cute. So it can be done right, but I think, again, you got to write the scene, you got to set the scene, you got to get the mood going, and I just don't think a lot of these authors want to take the time to do that, which is disappointing, you know? Let's just write better. Number 4, always knowing exactly what the FMC wants, in particular during intercourse. This one will take me out because I don't know, I guess I'm a bit of like a realist. Like, I understand some of these books are it's meant to be fantasy, it's not meant to be like super realistic, but you build so much more chemistry when you have like real communication between characters, you know what I mean? During like these intercourse scenes, the men seem to like, they know exactly what the girl wants and they never have to ask questions. They just nail it every time without any type of communication. And I would prefer more writing that shows the clumsiness of like a first time interaction between two people than it being like this like super perfect interaction. I just think that you build more chemistry, more realism, and it makes the romance feel deeper and better. Like, show the clumsiness of getting to know somebody in that way and like giggling and laughter. It's cute. It builds intimacy. I would love to see more of that. I think a way to correct this is have the MMC ask the MMC questions about like what she likes and what she doesn't like. Have them be somewhat timid in their approach. Maybe they are experienced in this manner, but they are with a new person, so they don't know what this person likes. So have them have a little bit more of a timid approach instead of this cocky, like, yeah, just sit back and I'm just gonna blow your mind. I highly doubt that. Asking questions and wanting feedback isn't a sign of inexperience. Anytime you're with a new person, there's going to be a learning curve of some sort. And again, this adds to the chemistry between the characters. You guys are so cute. Oh, my little potatoes. Number 5, enemies to lovers. I mean, just throw it out at this point because hardly anybody can do that trope justice. It is a trope that I really do love. I think it's great. I just don't think it's ever executed very well. I don't have the book sitting with me right now, but the book Bonesmith, I don't know, is it behind me? It is behind me. It's on my shelf because it's one of my favorite books. Bonesmith does a great job. It's actually a YA book, so there is no adult content in there. The romance is a subplot between Ren and Julian, the two main characters in that book. And they are true enemies when they first meet because the clans, I guess you could say, that they come from like literally hate each other. So these two like legitimately hate each other, and then they have to work together towards a common goal. And then they realize my perception of you wasn't 100% accurate, and maybe I'm viewing the world through too narrow of a lens. Like I said, the romance is so subplot, but it was done effectively, and that was in a YA book. So I mean, come on here. I feel like reluctant allies to lovers better describes a lot of these books. A lot of these books are marketed as enemies to lovers, and I just don't think hardly any of these authors do that trope justice. How would I correct this? If I want them to be enemies, they should just be enemies. There shouldn't be any inner dialogue gushing over how hot this guy is and how much they like want to smash them. You know, like they should genuinely hate each other. I don't think it's that hard to accomplish that in writing. I just think that, again, these authors, they rush so quickly into a romance that they don't take the time to build up the enemy's character arc. You know what I'm saying? I think like if authors would just stop rushing into the romance, they could actually successfully accomplish the enemies to lovers. I guess that just doesn't sell for a lot of people. Let's stop marketing these books as enemies to lovers when they are literally anything but. Number 6. I am really tired of the phrase, "Who did this to you?" followed by "he growled." Men being protectors isn't a problem. Show that he wants to protect her, not just him growling and snapping at everybody. The Knight and the Moth, Rachel Gillig does a great job at using common tropes in romantasy and giving them a little bit of a twist so they don't come off as stale and overused. For example, in The Knight and the Moth, Rory has a line where he says, "Which one, diviner?" And she's like, "Who are you talking about?" Or "What are you talking about?" He said, "Which one marked up your face?" He's mad that she's been injured by another creature. I think he's mad because he knows that another gargoyle injured her face. And so he wants to know who's responsible for injuring her, but instead of being like, "Who did this to you?" he's like, "Which one? Whose butt do I need to kick?" But the way that it's written comes off just a little bit more like, that one over there. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a little bit better because some more creativity was put into it than just, "Who did this to you?" And again, like, in The Knight and the Moth, the side character Hamlin, when Rory finds out Hamlin was disrespectful to Sybil, he wordlessly follows after Hamlin, and then a little bit later in that chapter, Rachel Gillig mentions that Hamlin has now sporting like a black eye. It implies that he took care of Hamlin without explicitly saying it, so it doesn't come off as so like cringy and overbearing and like overprotective. It's more like he just genuinely was ticked off that this guy was disrespectful to this woman and he, defended her. So again, it can be done well, but I'm really tired of the "who that did this to you" line. Number 7, excessive use of pet names or nicknames or phrases. Nicknames, they're fine, but pick good ones, okay? Thanks. Stop picking names that infantilize the FMC. Oh my gosh, this one is so bad, and I see it in a whole slew of books. It makes me like want to curl up in a ball and like shrivel up. Examples of just bad nicknames. In the Serpent and the Wings of Night, what's the guy's? Rain is the male love interest. He says there she is way too much. Like that's, so there isn't, I think he's given the FMC in that book. I think she has a nickname, but like he uses the there she is line so freaking much. And I'm like, okay, tone it back a little bit. This is getting cringy at this point. Like that line, I actually really like that line. I think it works well, but you gotta use it effectively. Don't overdo it. Of course, Fourth Wing, we all know about Violence being Violet's nickname, which I'm like, boo, that's lame. Freaking weird. In the book, What Lies Beyond the Veil, that's the book that I read to get me out of my 10-year reading hiatus. And oh boy, was that a rough book to start on. That was just an abysmally written book. That one is disgusting because the male love interest calls the female main character Little One or Little Star. And I'm like, ew, no. Like, we're not referring to a grown woman as Little One or Little Star. Boo. Nope. Disgusting. And that's like so, it's like so common. Can someone who might have like a degree in psychology explain to me why this is so popular? I don't quite get it, and it needs to stop. Voidwalker is a newer Romantasy book that just came out. This one is a good example of a creative way to give a character a nickname without making it cringy. So Antal is the like kind of monster alien creature in this book. He has antlers, and so Fee, who's the main character who's human, she just jokingly starts referring to him as antlers. It's meant to be patronizing at first. It's done in jest. It's not really meant to be cute, but later on as Fee and Antal become closer, it becomes like a term of endearment between the two of them. Better nicknames, or just no nicknames at all, okay? If you can't come up with something that like legitimately makes sense, stay away from the infantilization. Well, don't do it. What's wrong? What's wrong with calling the character my love or my beloved or something like that, or babe or honey? You're like, we could go with some basic ones that are just tried and true. Number 8, the bad boy who is only soft for her. Listen, again, I get it. I get why people like this. Because it's like that desire of having something that nobody else has, right? You grab the attention of the dark, brooding, mysterious, misunderstood hot guy, and no one else has been able to do so. And he's super kind. You get to see a side of him that nobody else gets to see. I get the appeal. My husband's kind of like that too. Like the side that I see to him is not what he puts out into the general public. So I'm not saying that you can't do this in Romantasy, but I think that unfortunately, a lot of the way that these characters are written, these male love interests, is they're just nasty. They're just nasty to everybody else. I don't think that's attractive. He doesn't have to be like super warm and bubbly with everybody else, but he doesn't need to be a jerk either. So I don't like that dynamic. If he wants to be more closed off and reserved, I think that's fine. But if he's only nice to the female main character because he thinks she's attractive and then he's just mean to everybody else, I just think that's, again, very immature. And I see it pretty commonly and I don't enjoy it. Number 9, he's morally gray. Most authors, again, don't do the morally gray characters very well at all. In my experience of just reading a lot of these Romantasies, again, it's like, he's morally gray because he's a jerk. Somebody needs to be making legitimately questionable decisions, but again, it's just so seldom seen or done very well. Oftentimes, these morally gray dudes are just misunderstood. So if you're going to make a character morally gray, he needs to be making questionable decisions. Like, he could be making good and bad decisions, but he legitimately needs to be making things that kind of put people in jeopardy, maybe, for like to be considered like truly morally gray. Yeah, there's like that misconception that he's misunderstood, which makes him morally gray. And I'm like, no. Like, for example, in the book Sword Heart by T. Kingfisher, great book. I love this one. This is an example of a very well done Romantasy. Sarkis is a enchanted sword. So he's a man cursed to be a sword. He's like hundreds of years old at this point. So he's been cursed to be this weapon. And whenever that weapon is drawn by somebody new, he has to serve whoever drew the sword. So as a result, I would consider Sarkis to actually be a morally gray character because he has to do the bidding of whoever hit the sword. And so he doesn't have a choice. Like, he's bound to that person. And as a result, we know, because Sarkis comments on this, that he has done some very questionable things in his past as a result. He has committed some atrocities in his past, not because he necessarily wanted to, but he was forced to, and he had no other option. I would consider him more of a morally gray character. I think that C. Kingfisher gave him more of a morally gray background successfully than a lot of these other authors who are like, he's dark, brooding, and mysterious, and that makes him morally gray. A lot of these morally gray characters, I think we throw the term around very lightly without giving the character the proper development to truly explain why they're morally gray. Number 10, overly possessive and protective. So this kind of goes back to the whole, who did this to you? This borders on abuse when the MMC starts inserting himself into everything that goes on in the FMC's life. It removes the FMC's autonomy and then leans into women should be quiet and submissive because her man will swoop in and save her whenever something goes awry. The damsel in distress, there's a time and place for that dynamic, I think, and I see it just a bit too much in these romantasy books, and it just makes me kind of cringe because it goes back to the whole, like, is this like a patriarchal kink type thing? And I'm like, the desire to be taken care of and protected, I get it, but I don't enjoy the way that it's written in a lot of these books. The MMC being like overly protective and jealous of any other man or woman talking to the FMC or taking the FMC's attention away from him. I don't know, that I've read quite a few times where like the guy will just get jealous if like anybody else is talking to the FMC. And I guess I'm supposed to think that's attractive. And I'm like, I just think that's childish. Like, why are we romanticizing that? Any man secure in himself won't be paranoid if any other character shows interest in the FMC. And it's not even just like a romantic interest. Like a lot of these characters, like they don't even want anyone like breathing in their direction. And I'm just like, what? Why are you writing characters that are this insecure? Like, I just don't understand. So I would say like being protective is fine, but once it starts bordering like jealous and overbearing, like then we're getting into some like weird narcissistic abusive stuff. And again, it goes back to like the patriarchal kink commentary. Like, why do so many people want to see this stuff in the books that they're reading? I don't know. It just makes me feel icky. You guys are so good. Yeah. Number 11, wings of convenience. You know what I'm saying? So this is boring, all right? If you're going to give your MMC or your FMC, if you're going to give these characters interesting appendages, you better make it so that way the character has to work and or adapt around said appendage. ACOTAR does the whole disappear their wings when it's convenient for them. So the wings are only out and about when it's like as a way of travel. And I'm like, listen, if you're going to give a character wings, he had better have his wings like all the time. Also, I think The Serpent and the Wings of Night or whatever that book's called, that one does the same exact thing where like the wings are only out for travel and then they can just put them away. And then like, but then we do the whole we do the whole thing, like the wing play thing where it's like the wings are an extra erogenous. Erogenous? Is that the word I'm looking for? Erogenous? Am I saying that right? Yeah, erogenous zones. Yeah, we make the wings into like an erogenous zone during like a sex scene. Why would a wing be an erogenous zone? Oh my gosh, those types of things make me cringe and roll my eyes so freaking hard. Another example. So again, I go back to Voidwalker. Antal, who's this alien monster-like creature, he has to sleep on his stomach because his antlers get caught in the pillows and the sheets and he rips them. So like he has to do something. His antlers don't just go away like they're a part of him. He just does this one thing. He adapts to that appendage. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't even know if you can say an antler isn't really, I don't really know if that counts as an appendage. Anyway, though, but it's like, get creative with it. It'll make the story so much more interesting if you just get creative. And I would just love to see more creativity with that kind of stuff. Number 12, insta-love, AKA insta-lust. Hate it. Hate it so much. We've got to build these relationships up a little bit better. I'm not going to be here. I'm not going to believe in this romance if it's just instant right out of the starting gate. Like, oh my gosh. No, we have got to move away from this. Build the relationship. Write it. Okay? Do it. You're an author. I believe in you. I know you can do this. Pay attention to body language. Those types, if an author knows how to write characters paying attention to one another's body language and what that means, that really builds the relationship and sense of intimacy. I have read a handful of books that are doing that. I would say I've read probably more books now focusing on body language, and I'm like, yes, thank you. But it still seems like it is kind of like glazed over, and I just want to stress that like that writing those types of interactions based off of just body language alone really does a lot to build the chemistry between characters. Focus on building tension and emotional connection, not just like, he hot, I want to smash. Make me believe they like each other beyond just how physically attractive they find each other. I just want more of that in these books. And so less fixation on like the physical attractiveness and more on like the actual personality. But in order to do that, you have to give your characters personality, okay? You have to give them depth. That's what I'm getting at. I feel like I'm just repeating myself at this point, but all these things go hand in hand, you know? Back to Voidwalker. It's kind of at the forefront of my brain for a lot of these examples, but the author took their time to develop the attraction between Fee and Antal. Their interactions were well explained. I felt like I could like sit down and really watch them observe one another and then get to know each other because of the time that the author took to build those interactions up. Their first like sexual encounter is more out of lust, but the feelings after the act linger really heavily, and Fee finds herself wanting more than just one time with Antal. She discovers that her feelings go a lot deeper than just like, I just wanted to blow off some steam. And I liked that inner monologue that we got from Fee, because it showed that she was like, oh man, I'm in trouble here because I'm not supposed to like this guy. That type of inner monologue and just inner turmoil made the way that they got to know each other feel more organic and realistic and endearing, and I was there for it. Number 13, fated mates. More often than not, oh my gosh, this trope seems to dehumanize women and removes their sense of autonomy. I do not enjoy fated mates. Again, I get why people like it. It takes like the will they, won't they out of the storyline, and it's like, no, they definitively will be together. But I also find a lot of authors using the fated mates trope to just write poorly. Usually fated mates equals lazy writing, in what I've experienced so far. The woman can't really fight back, and it's usually the woman. It's usually the woman that's like the one that finds out, like the man already knows that they're fated and the woman doesn't know, she's in the dark. So it just kind of like removes her ability to fight back because she's fated to be his. Again, I can understand why it's popular, but the ickiness of the woman not being able to make that decision for herself is what makes me kind of uncomfortable. I think that book, What Lies Beyond the Veil, is just like a really badly written book. I only read the first one I managed to get through, and I read like maybe like half the second one. I'm like, bleh. That one has the fated mates trope in it, and it was done in a way that made me uncomfortable because the male love interest is like, you literally can't fight back against me. Like, we are meant to be together, so, you know, you don't have a choice. And I was like, don't like that. Yuck, ew, gross. Number 14, I just said traumatic backstories. I think some authors give the characters just too much traumatic backstory. Everybody to a degree has different traumatic things that happen to them. I just think some of these authors go like way overboard with it. I think it's just overdone. I think you can have, there's different levels of trauma. And I don't think everybody needs to have like literally the worst thing ever happen to them. Maybe we could try to give people their traumatic backstories in a way that's not always so sensationalized, if that makes sense. I'm tired of reading like the two main characters in the book are like the most traumatized, downtrodden characters you've ever heard of. I just like to see a variety in how trauma is discussed in some of these books, and that it's not always like, I watched everyone in my family die in a fire, or I watched everybody in my family get beheaded. I just want to see a variety again, how these authors build these traumatic backstories for these characters, so they don't just all feel the same, because everything feels kind of the same. This genre, again, like I'm not really giving up on the romantasy genre in general, because as of late, I have read a couple books. I've read 2 romantasys back to back that kind of restored my faith in the genre. I had mentioned it, Voidwalker by S.A. McLean. This was great. I really enjoyed this. I think this is a well done romantasy. And then as I mentioned before as well, T. Kingfisher's Swordheart. This one was also a very well done romantasy. So there's 2 recs right there of romantasys I really enjoyed. Some other ones I enjoyed, Rain and Ruin. That one's up on my shelf that I don't have the ability to climb up there and get right now. Rain and Ruin was very good, not very long, beautifully written, has a lot of political intrigue in it. That book I thought was a very well done romantasy. That one has, I believe, 3 or 4 other books in the same universe. So they're all romantasys in the same universe with characters that kind of like you meet the characters in this book and then the next book is their story. I've only read the first 2 in the series. I think that Rain and Ruin did a better job of an actual romantasy. The second one, I'm blanking on the name of the second one. That one I still enjoyed. It was still good. It just didn't build the relation. It was a little more insta-lovey than Rain and Ruin. I kind of just prefer there to be a little bit more development in the relationship before they like start smashing. Like sometimes it's fun to read more of like the insta-lust stuff when you're like in the mood for it, but ideally I just like there to be some more development. Oh my gosh, I'm like out of breath. Really briefly, I had mentioned it also before, The Sweet Blue Distance. This is not a romantasy, it is a historical fiction romance, but this one has a very well written romance in it. I also mentioned Bonesmith, that one's back there on my shelf. That one has a romance subplot and it's YA, so it's not steamy, but I just thought the romance was very well developed and I really enjoyed that one. My husband also really enjoyed that book too. So in terms of a romantasy that's very popular in mainstream, I think The Night and the Moth is a very well done one, but I love Rachel Gillig's writing. I know a lot of people don't care for her. She's kind of like hit or miss again for some people, but like for me, I think it's her dialogue. Her dialogue just hits for me. It's so well written and I really love how, again, she takes common romantasy tropes and gives them just enough of a twist that it's fun and it feels fresh. One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns, also by Rachel Gillig. I think those are well done romantasies. I actually liked Two Twisted Crowns more than I liked One Dark Window. I mean, Elm like kind of stole the show for me. I mean, like there's a couple lines of dialogue in there and I was like, I mean, okay, I see what you're doing there. Another one I enjoyed was Enchantra. That's the second book in the Wicked Game series by Kaylee Smith. So the first one was, hang on, let me look at it because I always say it wrong. I always say, yeah, Phantasma. I actually didn't like Phantasma as much. I thought Enchantra was a bit more fun. It was kind of insta-lust, but I don't know if it was just like, it was just hitting the vibes. It had the right vibes to it that I liked. But I did actually find Enchantra more fun. And Ember in the Ashes, that is a series by Saba Tahir. I only read the first book so far. That one has a romance subplot to it, and I thought that was actually done really well. I do need to finish reading that series because I did genuinely enjoy that first book quite a bit. I remember being surprised at the amount of romance that was highlighted in the book. I was like, oh, I wasn't anticipating. I was anticipating more fantasy and not fantasy romantasy. So I would still consider the plot, at least in the first book, to be more subplot. But that was enjoyable. I thought it just came off, it was more like mature feeling, but well done. For more of an indie romantasy, I think that was done well is His Secret Illuminations. That's by Scarlett Gale. That one's back up there on my shelf too. That one, the first one at least, I think it's just 2 books. His Secret Illuminations was fun because it took a lot of popular romantasy tropes and again, twisted them. So the female main character, she's actually like the badass one. She's like a bounty hunter and she's humongous and she's like muscular. And then she teams up with a monk. And the monk is like, you know, he's been a monk his whole life. He's not super well muscled. He's kind of lanky, skinny. The dynamic is twisted. She's more of the dominant one. He's more of the submissive. They do get together at the end of the book. So it is more slow burn. But I will say the second book there's a lot of smut. There's a lot of smut in the second book. I kind of skimmed the second book because I was like, where's the plot? Where did it go? Because right now we are just smashing and exploring kinks, which is fine. It's fun, whatever. But like I think the first one did the combination of fantasy romance well. Like it built the relationship up between them. So at least by the time they get to smashing a lot, they actually have a more developed relationship. That one was fun. Again, the second one is just mostly smashing though. Can't say I didn't warn you. So there's a few examples of, I think, romantasies that are done well. Some of them are more well known. Some of them are not as well known. I know that there are people out there who are writing good romantasy. So I just keep looking for them and kind of staying away from a lot of the mainstream popular ones, unless it's Rachel Gillig. If it's Rachel Gillig, I'm going to pick it up and read it because I just already know. She's like an insta-buy author for me personally. There's a formula to building a best-selling romantasy, right? Like I get it. Probably with most any book that you consume that's really popular, there's like a formula to building that. It's the same thing with like songwriting and like if you want a top hit, there's like a science behind how you build that in order to get it successful. So I understand. I'm just hoping that like if we start asking and demanding for authors to get more to produce just better written books, that they would rise to the occasion. As frustrated and as discouraged as I get with romantasy because a lot of it's so poorly written, and then I find one that's well written, I'm like, mwah, there it is. That's the ticket right there. There are well-written ones. I know T. Kingfisher has her Paladin series. I would really like to get into that one here soon because I've heard those books are really well-written as well. Also, I think they take place in the same world that Sword Heart does. I need to get into those ones. T. Kingfisher seems like an all-around just very good writer, and she writes like a whole plethora of different things too. So, and in all fairness, like I said before, I took like a 10-year hiatus from reading, so I'm really just dipping my toes back in. And so naturally, I went for a lot of the more hyped up, popular book talk Romantasy books to start that journey. And I was kind of horrified because I was like, oh, these are the most beloved. These are the most beloved books of this genre? You've got to be kidding me. Now that I've been back into reading consistently for the last couple of years, I'm starting to find my groove. To be honest with you, I'm still trying to figure out like my reading style, like which authors hit well with me. I used to read a lot as a teenager. As an adult, now I'm trying to be more conscientious of the books that I am picking up. Now I feel like I'm really trying to find the books and styles of writing that I enjoy. And I just like books that are, I guess, just like a bit more mature and have more depth than what's popular. Those are just my opinions and preferences towards romantasy in general. It still is like one of like my favorite genre. Like give me romantasy, give me romance, fantasy, however you want to say it. But I love my books with some romance in it. And when I find one that has like a genuinely good like half and half plot with the romance, it's just like, mwah, I feel like I won like a little medal or a prize. I feel like I could make another edition of this same topic, just talk about more tropes and more things that I see that I don't care for very much. And so if you have any other suggestions on tropes that you don't like or whatever, maybe I'll make another video commenting on those things really quick. Look at these cutie patooties. Hi. You guys are so good. You're so good. You were like napping the whole time. You're napping and cleaning your feathers. Figgy is like pecking her sister's face. She's like cleaning Sybil's face off, like just a little bit too rough. You're being too rough. Anyway, everybody, thanks so much for joining us today while I talked about things in romantasy that I hate. But this is meant to be just kind of a little bit more fun, lighthearted, something a little shorter for me to shoot. I've been trying to read more so I can review more books. My biggest challenge right now is that I don't have like an efficient way to review these books in a way that doesn't like take up half my day. I'm not sure if this is a route I'll try to go more often to make shorter form content, at least shorter form in that my like not 2-hour long videos that take me 5 hours to shoot. I don't know. I'm trying to figure all of this out, but let me know if you liked this style. Let me know if there's any other topics like this that you want my opinions on. The next time I put out a video, I'll have a child. So that's going to be an interesting new dynamic for me to wrap my head around. But thank you everyone so much for joining me today. I appreciate you all. I will see y'all in the next one. Toodles! Figgy, say bye. Good job. Toodaloo. Okay, bye.
Reach for the stars.